the greatest podcast in the history of the known universe. Only 4 episodes in. So I don't know how we're going to get much better than that. But welcome to Falconcast. I got a couple of great guests for you today and a lot of fun stories as always, including one about dating age, which I really want to get into. But I'm saving that for the end of the show for my weird stories. But a lot of ways that you can participate. You can watch on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/The Falconcast. Make sure you put The Falconcast in everything. We'll now be on YouTube as well. Same thing. You can also pick it up later on Spotify and Apple, of course. And if you want to send me an email about anything, it's thefalconcast@yahoo.com. If you're looking to advertise, we got room for maybe one more big advertiser and a few small ones. And if we do that, we'll move the show to Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. So it won't just be Monday, Thursday anymore. Talking to you, Beaumont. A lot of people over there like the show. Get over here and advertise so I can get my butt back over there. And if you just want to support the show, a lot of people have asked how to do it. I haven't figured out all the Twitch stuff yet, but I will. And but you can just PayPal at the Falconcast at paypal.com. My first guest, very excited to have on. Good friend. We did a show for a little over a year together on the network, and Greg Frank joins me now, and I've missed getting my updates on Philadelphia sports from you, so we'll have to get to that. But tell me what time slot you're in now, because I can't pick up I can't pick it up here. So let the people know how they can get you.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm 2 to 4 Eastern, 1 to 3 Central, and kicking it by myself. But I always find things to talk about. So good to be with you again, Fred.
Yeah, man, we had a lot of fun doing that show.
Yeah,
and Greg and I still hang out and play poker together every now and then. So, my only regret with that is that we weren't on here in Houston, because it would have made, because there was a big audience here, and you had to search for it, and if we'd been able to do that, then who knows? But I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed your sports takes. But by the end, we had it where we were fitting the parameters they wanted, but we were making it fun. Yeah. And I think I'm told that to you. I think that's what's missing from a lot of shows. Guys aren't having fun. They're spouting hot takes. They're responding to other people's stuff, and they don't seem to enjoy it. It's just this is the job now, and it shouldn't be a job. And that's one thing that I hope that we were able to do. Is it wasn't a job. We had a lot of fun with it. Yeah, like the first thing I see today is Philly fan freaking out over Joel Embiid. I had to get your take on that right off the bat.
Yeah, well, I've been so frustrated, and it's only been a year and a half with James Harden, and it makes me wonder how you guys did it for a decade here in Houston. But I guess it was only a matter of time before he at least dropped a hint of maybe looking to go somewhere else. He's still under contract for 3 more years. So is he just going to get up and mope and not play? I don't think we're at that point yet, but I guess, and we talked about this on our show with these NBA guys, everybody's got a little bit of an expiration date. So I guess we'll just have to see where this one goes, but on a scale of 1 to 10, panic meter, I'm still only at about 3.
That's probably fair. And your Eagles have done a lot this offseason. You and I've texted you about that.
Yeah.
They just seem to keep making the right moves. And I don't think wrong by just drafting Georgia player after Georgia player.
No, they certainly made a bunch of picks out of the University of Georgia. And of course, I don't know if you saw Jalen Carter is now getting sued. And so there's some more that might unfold there. But I couldn't believe Nolan Smith got down to them at the end of the first round. And, gosh, as you know, I was at the Super Bowl, and it was a crushing loss. But certainly optimistic about where we're headed in 2023 with the Eagles, because, you tell me, outside of San Francisco, who else do I really need to be afraid of in the NFC?
Well, my concern with San Francisco is more coach erosion, right? Year after year, if you keep losing I don't know who's calling me in the middle of a show. But all these guys are pretty good that they've lost D'Amico
Right.
and half their offensive staff, and I still think quarterback's a bit of an issue there. We don't know what's going to happen. So if anybody's going to take a little step back, I think it would be them. I mean, they may not. I mean, he's done a good job but they've had some off years under Shanahan too. So
Well, let me ask you: do you think that Seattle's ready to win the division?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, well, well, we know Arizona's crap, right?
Right.
And we don't know what the Rams are. So if San
Yeah.
Francisco were to take a step back, then yes, I guess you could say Seattle could win that division.
Yeah. So, but let me ask you, because it was a big topic for me today. Staying in the NFC, where do you think we're headed with Saquon Barkley and the Giants? I mean, I think if there was ever a running back to attempt a Le'Veon Bell type kind of holdout, that it would be this guy, because we know that the Giants' offensive line is not very good. Their wide receiver room leaves a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones ain't going to go out there and win you 10 games, so I think we could be looking at a long stalemate here.
Yeah, it seems like it, but 10 million's a pretty good year, and you don't want to start missing checks. So I think they'll get it worked out. I'm always optimistic that these things end well. It's New York, so yes, everybody's going to talk about it, and I don't know what I would do if I were the Giants here. I don't want to pay him a Zeke Elliott contract because we see what happens, but you also see what you're missing if you don't have him. And
well, is there a middle ground there?
I would think it's just, if you're Saquon, are you taking the middle ground? You're going to be look what is your offense without me? And
right.
And I'm sure that's why they couldn't get a deal done.
Yeah. Well, I guess a lot of it too will depend on the term, if what he can get now. Right. Obviously, there's no deal now, so it's just he either signs his franchise tender or he doesn't. But in turn, I wonder too. Maybe he wasn't going to get the McCaffrey level guarantee, but if I were him, I would have looked at like a 3 or 4 year deal in the neighborhood of what Nick Chubb got from Cleveland, which is like $12 million a year, I believe, and probably settled for that. So I wasn't inside the negotiations, but that just feels like one that could linger.
Yeah, and I think it'll linger until week 1 when the paychecks start, and then you're going to be dealing with this again all next offseason.
So you think he's on the field week 1 and plays on the tag?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think they fight about this and we go through it again next year.
Right. Sure.
So it's kind of like the Aaron Rodgers wants to be traded thing that we went through year after. Aaron Rodgers wants to retire.
Wants to retire, yeah. Right. And notice
Tom Brady wants to retire.
It was very strategic on Rodgers' part. He always dropped those after he would screw up in the playoffs again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was his way of changing the narrative. Kind of like LeBron. Yeah. Remember when he got swept by Denver and he's like, well, I might retire.
Yeah. We joked about that on Thursday when ESPN was doing like breaking news, LeBron to return for another year.
Right.
It's like,
breaking.
Yeah, that's
off tour for LeBron James.
Breaking news, I'm old. Breaking news, I suck at marriage. That's all. All breaking news. We just broke it right here on Falconcast. Hey, I wanted to get to one more, at least baseball topic with you at some point, because the trade deadline's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And, the Astros fans got another look at Ohtani. They're not getting him. What do you do if you're the Angels? And I know you've talked about you would trade him at the deadline here, but you would have done it last year, so you'd have got more. But what do you do?
Yeah, I think it's organizational malpractice if you let a player of his talent walk out the door for nothing. And the only reason you don't trade him is if you feel confident that your second half, which I'm not, because they've slipped in the standings, that you can be competitive enough to flirt with the playoffs, and then you try and sell him on this bill of goods that I don't think anybody is buying. Well, hey, next year Mike Trout will be healthy. Next year Anthony Rendon will be healthy. And it never seems to work out, but that's the Angels every year, is you buy into them being healthy if you're a fan of theirs. And then by Memorial Day, they're 10 games under 500 and the season's over. So I think it's a no-brainer. Even though he's a rental, he'd be the most expensive rental of all time. And, I think a functional franchise makes that move, but the Angels are not functional.
Well, and just one more baseball take because kind of related to that. And we've talked about the Angels. It's like it doesn't matter who they have, right? They're just doomed. And you mentioned three names there with Ohtani and Trout, and of course Trout gets hurt again. Rendon. They've got all these players. They're never on the field at the same time. And I look at teams like the Mets and Padres this year. It's like you can spend all the money you want, but unless you put together a team that actually picks each other up a little bit, and like if you're not pitching well, you better be hitting. If you're not hitting well, you better be pitching.
Right.
And this has been the Angels forever.
Yeah, no, you're right. You can't necessarily spend your way out of the basement. Now, it's interesting in that division, you could argue that's what the Rangers have done. So I guess it's a dangerous game, right? When you start spending and then you do have a star or two like a Trout or Ohtani where you can't rebuild while you have those guys on your roster. But
right.
If you make bad investments, then you're going to lose and you're going to have bad contracts on the books and you're probably going to piss them off. So it's kind of the worst place to be. I think you're right about the Padres and the Mets. Those are cautionary tales for other teams to spend wisely if you're going to spend. And, I'll throw it back at you with the Mets and potentially a trade deadline fit with the Astros. Max Scherzer for sale. Are you making that call?
I'm making the call at least, but
yeah, 1 year left after 2023.
Yeah, and at this point, you start worrying. He's had a lot of injuries, just like Verlander. It's like they're great guys to have, but you'd be counting on him being healthy. And I just don't know. I think there's some mid-level starters they should go after. They've got guys that if they don't turn it around, like if Javier doesn't pitch like he pitched in the postseason last year, and Framber's not dominant, they don't have a chance anyway.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And I think they just need to get their guys right. And they went in with 7 starting pitchers, and now they've got 3, sort of 2.5, and JP France and guys like that we're never supposed to be pitching this year, and they're still only a couple games out. So I think they'll be fine, but I would like to see just an innings eater, right? They can give you a 3.50 ERA.
Yeah.
If they get that, I think that would be awesome. Sure. About your Phillies?
Yeah, I think there's starting innings eater as well would be something that they could look at because their starting pitching's been a bit inconsistent. And then the other big hole, which has not been filled ever since Rhys Hoskins went down with a torn ACL in spring training, would be a right-handed power bat at first base. So if St. Louis puts Paul Goldschmidt on the market, his contractual status is the same as Scherzer. He's got 1 more year after this year. I'm very interested in bringing in the guy from the Woodlands. But if they can bring in another starting pitcher, because Aaron Nola has been a bit of a disappointment this year, and you can turn out Zach Wheeler, Taijuan Walker, and somebody that you can acquire, then I feel a lot better about their rotation. But they're playing really well. I can't wait to see them when I'm flying home at the end of the week and going to go to a couple games next week against the Orioles. So looking forward to another, hopefully, long playoff run.
All right. Hang around for a bit. I gotta do a little business here, but I wanted to do a shout out to all the people who are commenting. So this is just a little overly technical, but this software I'm using now, like any comment from anywhere, like if you comment on Twitch, you comment on Twitter, it all pops up into the chat so I can read it. So I think it even does Facebook. So it is going out live, like on Twitter. It's going out live on Facebook and YouTube and of course Twitch. But Twitch was always kind of the community we built, so that's why we're using it. But I want to shout out Chuck D, Todd the Show, Jared Taylor, BS Flea, King of All Witches, B Hannon. Great to have you guys on there commenting, and feel free to jump in at any time. But first, I have to tell you about my favorite place to go. And you can catch me there almost every Friday after noon, sometimes the days where I don't have a podcast. I like to go on the weekends as well. It's the Phoenix on Westheimer. And if you've never been, I know I got a few soccer fans out there. It is the best soccer bar in the city. They're going to have the Women's World Cup July 20th through August 20th. They're going to be open for all the games, regardless of the start time. They're going to have the kitchen open, but they have to stay within the TABC hours for alcohol. And the other cool thing that we've got going on, and Greg, I hope if you're in town and not busy, you can make it. August 26th, we're doing a big fundraiser. A guy named Daniel Ramon was paralyzed from the chest down in a car accident. He's a single parent with a young kid. And so we're going to raise some money to help him out because he can't pay his bills. And that's going to be August 26th, 6 o'clock. Some of the best chefs in the city will be there. We've got a nice lineup of bands, including mine. We've got some other, all kinds of cool stuff. We're going to get some famous people there you can get your picture taken with. It will be a great event. So circle the date right now, August 26th. And before that, just go check out the Phoenix. They've got an incredible staff. Camilla and Derek and Bailey and all those guys are fantastic. And the food's great. Vu, who runs the place, is fantastic. And it's just my kind of place. It's your kind of place. Please go check out the Phoenix on Westheimer. All right. I'm going to bring back an old argument we used to have. July is the worst sports month. It's not debatable. I don't know why you keep putting February in there.
Well, listen, I know you're not a tennis guy. I got my Wimbledon shirt on today because we had an amazing final yesterday, so got to wake up to that. We have a golf major happening this week in the UK. We have the baseball trade deadline, which we just talked about. In the beginning of the month, we had free agency in the NBA and the NHL. So there's more going on in July than people give it credit for. Whereas in February, we have the Super Bowl, and that's it. We know that nobody cares about the regular season in the NBA. The teams don't because they load manage everybody. And, hockey has its all-star break, I think, in early February. College basketball, we're still not at the marquee month of March, so that's my argument.
Yeah, but see, that's unfair to try to compare that to March. I mean, it starts getting pretty real for a lot of these teams in February. So I'm going to just snatch that bone out of your mouth. And then, the reality is I'd rather watch a regular season NBA game. I've been watching Summer League. I'd rather watch that than, no offense, tennis. I mean, so I'll take that. But in the hockey, I love. So, I mean, that's three sports that are going on right there. And you got the Super Bowl. So,
which is one game and could suck.
Yeah. And you don't even have one game in this month. You know what's getting the most run? You know what's getting the most run? WNBA. Are you proud of that?
Listen, I'm not. I don't like to value
a WNBA shirt. Go get you a Phoenix Aces shirt or Las Vegas Aces, whichever.
No WNBA team in Houston, right?
No. They had, when it started, they had like a team that won 4 in a row with the Comets, but
okay.
And they were kind of rock stars in this city, but it's.
Hey, I know it's your show. I want to ask you a question, if you'll allow it.
Yeah, go ahead.
You got me hooked last summer on The Lincoln Lawyer, and I was wondering if you've watched the first 5 episodes of season 2 yet.
Yeah, we actually talked about this Thursday. I have a real beef with Netflix because they did this with The Witcher also. Don't drop me 5 episodes out of a 10-episode season, Netflix. That's not who you are.
That's
drop
true.
Me the whole damn season.
Right.
And so I found myself, I enjoyed it right up until the end, and I thought the whole thing was there. And nope.
I got to wait a couple weeks.
So no, yeah, it's like end of August. No, it's like a month.
I thought it was the beginning of August. No, it's the end of August?
I think it's the end of August. I don't know. I may be confusing it with The Witcher because I got just as pissed when they did it with that. So,
because the first season they dropped the whole thing, right?
Yeah. See, that's the thing. You've established that this is how you do things, and then why you want to mess with 2 of my favorite shows and take it there. I take that very personally, as I should.
Did you do any Succession?
No, you know what? That show just never captured me.
Okay.
And a lot of a lot of people have told me, "Oh man, you gotta watch the show," and it's like, all right, I'll give it a try. And it's just there's just no, I always have to have somebody to root for. They don't have to be
Okay.
perfect. And like to me, the perfect one, I'm looking forward to this Justified reboot because Raylan Givens was he's a badass and he pushes the line a little bit, but boy, you root for him. And that's why I love the show so much. There's just nobody to root for in Succession. And if you can give me one, I'll try it.
I mean, most of the characters are pretty miserable. I
Yeah.
give you that. I'm finished. I got 2 episodes left, but
Yeah.
something about Kieran Culkin. He's probably my favorite only because of his crass sense of humor. But it's a fair point that you make about just not being able to kind of get behind a character.
Yeah. And I mean, I can root for a bad guy. I just need likable bad guy. You know? I mean, that's what I
I
need.
remember we did we had a promo last year for our show about movie villains, and Cyrus the Virus was your favorite, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
found him likable. Not as a person, but as a character. So give me that.
Right.
Those are the kind of things that I enjoy. But yeah, I was going to get to it a little later, but I'll do this while you're here. I've been watching a lot of documentaries, and so over the weekend I got to where I was watching all these murder docs, right? And at one point I'm like, what the hell? Am I going crazy? Because now I'm thinking about, oh man, I would have got away with it if I did this, and I would have got away with it if I did that. And I'm like, yeah, this is probably not good for my mental health. So I flipped over to another Netflix thing, and it was some new series. I can't remember what it's titled, but they have all this different stuff. And the first one I started looking at was called AI Killer Robots. And I'm like 2 minutes. I'm 2 minutes
right up your
into
ass.
this. I'm like, no, 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 no. I've seen this. It's called The Terminator. You guys need to stop with this. And what's funny is these scientists are so excited, right? I mean, they're all like, oh, this could end homelessness. Yeah, it's going to end homelessness because they're going to kill us all. I mean, what the hell? So, yeah.
That was your ongoing joke. Anytime I advocated for robo-umps, you were like,
Yep.
be careful what you wish for.
Yep. And,
Are you drinking
I still
the
think
Oppenheimer Kool-Aid? Everybody's hyping it up.
Yeah. I don't know. But have you been to the theater since COVID at all?
That's a good question. I don't. No, I stand corrected. I saw House of Gucci in the theater with a date who I grew to hate. So,
how is the dating life going for you?
put yourself out there, ghosted a lot, couple good ones, and then it just fizzles out. Not all the women communicate the way you'd like them to, but I guess that's dating as a late 20-year-old these days.
Actually, yeah, I made it. I'm just not going out with anybody anymore. It's just I'm done.
You're retired.
I'm retired. Yeah, I had a great run. Well, no, not a great run because I failed at all of them, but I had a pretty good run. But it's funny because there was a girl I know from that I met at Phoenix a couple times that asked me out this weekend, and she's like 28 years old. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
And no. I'm just like, what am I going to have in common with you? Go get divorced 2 more times and come see me. Although I guess there's a part of me that says maybe I should get the apple off the tree instead of going to the store and buying used apples. But I said no. I just didn't think it was. I just didn't think it was right. How's your poker been? We haven't been at the same table in a while.
No, we haven't. Oh, I've actually done pretty well the last couple of weeks. So, trying to figure out. My big thing is when I get cards, how to play them, and I think I'm getting better at that. As far as when to bluff, I'm still kind of figuring that out. But I feel like I'm getting better at how to play certain hands. So.
I've always told people bluffing is overrated. There's a time to do it, but it's also, and I think part of it was during the World Series, you'd see guys go all in with like 10-7 and, but they had built up to that thinking, knowing that they might be able to bet this guy off a good hand because
Right.
of the stuff they've been seeing for hours. And so when you see that, and then everybody's like, "Oh, I bluffed you," and you're going to bluff me sometimes. It's going to happen.
Right.
But I'm also not going to get crazy with it. I always like the semi bluff. I like I'll lead out when I've got an open ended or a flush draw or something like that.
Sure.
But
yeah. Hey, I hung out with your guy, Lawyer John, yesterday. We actually played some tennis at Rice.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I saw him. I think it was Saturday night.
Okay.
Yeah, we hung out at PJ's a little bit and then came over here because
I tell you, with the kind of law he does, that guy's got to always be busy with all that NCAA, especially now with all this NIL stuff.
Yeah, and that's not going away, right? That's not solved yet. And so John is an NCAA compliance lawyer and one of my favorite people. And Greg got to know him because they play tennis. And he's always busy now. And in this NIL thing, once the government starts getting involved in that and it starts flipping, then I think you're going to see a lot of changes, and it's going to keep him busy. And I'll have him on the show because there's nobody that knows more about that stuff. You just wind him up, and he will tell you everything, and at least what he can, right? Because there's a lot of stuff in common. But I mean, every rule, everything he knows. And we were having a conversation. PJ and I were actually having a conversation. And PJ thinks the SEC is ruining college football, and his take on that.
I agree with that.
Oh, I know you would have, yeah.
Yeah.
But he starts talking about all the NIL stuff and this, and John comes in and just starts saying, "Well, actually, this is what happens, and this is what happens."
Speaking of college football, UH first year in the Big 12, optimistic, pessimistic, somewhere in between.
Cautiously pessimistic.
Okay.
Would be the way to put it. And I've had a couple of good conversations with Dana Holgerson. We sometimes frequent the same establishment, and I don't feel like they have the talent because I think they were better last year. You had a veteran quarterback, and you had Tank Dell who got drafted by the Texans.
Yeah.
They've got some good young receivers, and I know they like both these quarterbacks, but you lost 4 games in the AAC, and you did not match up when you played Kansas. And you should have beaten Tech, but you didn't. It's just so much of it was, hey,
but they survived by the skin of their teeth against UTSA in the opener.
Yeah. And and his point is that we talk too much about the negatives and that they had some great wins, that being one of them. And the other one was the Memphis win. They had no business winning that game, and it was fantastic. And all the other games were close except for Kansas. And I mean, and that's that's certainly the coach's take on it. And he feels pretty confident. So we'll see. I'm hopeful, but yeah, I'm not feeling great about this. I just think it's I thought they would be another step ahead going into this year, and I don't feel like they took that step forward. Not that they're going to have the team they had 2 years ago every year. It just happened to run in Cincinnati. But that's. But I mean, I hope they're competitive. I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see some of these teams coming back down here too. And that Texas game is that's going to be a big one.
What's that crowd split like here?
Oh, it'll be. The guys who have season tickets at UH are not giving those to Texas fan, but I mean, Texas will buy up everything they can.
Yeah.
A lot of horns here in Houston. So.
By the way, I see King of all Twitches asked how I played. The lawyer got me pretty good yesterday. I started to play better just as the lights went out. So I needed like one of those. Remember the Super Bowl with the 49ers and the Ravens when the lights went out and then the lights came back on and whoever was getting killed came back and almost won? Like, that's what I needed, except the lights never came back on.
Yeah. Well,
I tell you, he taught the whole sport to himself. I'm impressed. He's good.
Oh, yeah. He's a good tennis player, and he knows it, man.
Yeah.
If you ever decided to quit being a lawyer, I'm pretty sure he could go bet on it and make a real good living. Because, he just knows everything. And like I said, you guys, We had him on the Blitz a few times back in the day, but he'll definitely make an appearance here. And all right, so for the last question
Sure.
is one of the things I'm going to start is how drunk are we today on a scale of 1 to 10? Now you just got off work,
Yeah.
so I'm guessing you haven't had a chance to pour one yet.
Yeah, 0.
Yeah, this is a vodka water that's half full, so I'm not to 1 yet because I just started it when the show started. But anybody else on Twitch who's imbibing, let me know where you are on a scale of 1 to 10 today, and we'll just we'll roll with that. So, Greg, any final thoughts? I mean, I really appreciate you coming on, and it's been fun catching up.
No, yeah, it's been good chopping it up. Sports TV. I am, like I mentioned, I'm curious if this Oppenheimer movie lives up to the hype. Everybody, Christopher Nolan.
Everybody's saying it's the greatest thing ever, and I just let me see.
Yeah.
They also said Inception was fantastic, and I love Christopher Nolan. I'm like, this is more confusing than The Matrix.
Exactly. Like, he just tries to screw with you so much and make you think different things are going on, and sometimes it's a lot for me. So we'll see. Good to be on.
All right. So one more before I let you go, because this refers to one of my stories at the end of the show. So this is sort of a tease for everybody who's listening live. I mentioned the 29-year-old the other day. What is an age range for you at 29, 30? Because most of our listeners are in that range. How low will you go, or how high?
I'm more inclined to go like higher than lower. So I still think the lowest I would probably go is 24, 25. Now, maybe I'm a little too conservative there, and I should be going lower. But 24, 25. And the highest, I don't think a 40-year-old wants to date me. But if she does, I would consider it.
See, because I have a lot of friends who are 40, and they all want to date guys your age.
Oh,
they don't want the veteran. They want to
feel young.
Yeah, I guess that's it. And plus, they're easier to control, I suppose.
Okay.
But
so 25 to 40, I'll say.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I was just curious because the story is about a guy who marries a woman who's way younger than him, and I mean significantly younger, and and they're in love, and age doesn't mean a thing, and love conquers all. Yeah, and Flea, I know the whole take your current age, divide by 2, and add 7. That's I don't know who came up with that, but so like if I get a 34-year-old and the 34 doesn't needs to age another year, no, that's just dumb. It's a guide. It's a guideline. It's not an official rule, Flea.
There's no textbook.
Yeah. Well, trust me, if there was, I wouldn't be writing it. Hey, man, I appreciate the time. Let's do this again sometime, and tell them again how to listen to the show.
Absolutely. No, good to be aboard with you, Fred. Yeah, every day, SportsMap Radio, sportsmapradio.com, SportsMap Radio app, Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 Central. I know it's like a lot of Houston people. So 1 to 3 Central, 2 hours, mostly sports, sometimes a movie take or, whatever else is on my mind. One last thing I'll leave you with. Ticket insurance. I was buying Phillies tickets for my vacation with my dad, and I had the thought on Saturday when I was buying, is this not the biggest waste of $20? Why would I want to insure my ticket? Because what are the odds that something's going to happen to me where I'm going to need this?
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, I've had that. You know what? I had that problem one time at a Texans game.
Okay.
And we went in, and our tickets wouldn't work. And it turns out that someone in the office had stolen the original ones.
Oh.
And used them already.
Wow.
And so they sent us some replacement ones, and they wouldn't work because those guys got the game before us. Of course, we found out who it was, and they got fired. So there was that.
Okay.
But yeah.
But yeah, outside of auto insurance, health insurance, and life insurance, I think travel insurance is the only one that I can get behind.
Maybe, but if I die, who's getting the money these days,
That's what I said, life insurance.
Okay.
No? You're out on that?
I don't know. I'm just But I mean, what do I have that they lose my luggage or whatever that I don't
Right.
even know what it covers.
That's
Does
true
it
too.
cover me dying?
Yeah.
Because I already got that. So anyway, all right,
All
brother.
right.
Thanks a lot, and let's do this again. And hopefully, I'll see you at one of the games here soon.
You bet. Take care.
All right, brother. Okay, I have to tell you about my good friend Dr. Linville, and it's really awesome what he does, and I'm really proud to have him on as a sponsor. He will replace your hair, and this is a very cool procedure where he takes grafts off the back of your head because those grow back, and he puts them where you don't have it. And there's no anesthesia. It's just numbing medicine. The pain is very minimal. And 95 to 99% of the grafts take because grafts are handled and prepared safely. And I can tell you, all of mine from 3 years ago are still there. And it's a really cool procedure. He has an individualized plan for each and every patient, and they only charge $4 per graft. $4. So if you've been thinking about getting this done, just do this. You can go book a consultation, tell them you heard about it on the Falconcast, and your consult fee will be waived. $150 value. So you can get the consultation for free. Go to hairspecialisthouston.com, and once you get there, just like I said, tell them you heard about it on Falconcast, and let's help support these guys because they are supporting us. All right. Rain Man says this conversation has me missing my granny banging days. Okay. Yeah. Out there breaking hips, man. It's all good. All right. I'm going to bring in my guy, Joe Spano, here. I know I'm bringing you on a little early. You there, Joe?
I am Craig. I am Fred. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you good.
All right, cool. I wasn't sure it wasn't showing me audio on Restream. We're rocking and rolling. How are you, brother?
Oh, I'm doing really, really well, man. Just trying to build this thing up, and so far so good. People seem to like it. A few more listeners every day, and that's how we're going to do it, piece by piece. Hit a
It won't
single
take
every
you
day.
long, man. It really won't take you long. I've listened to every episode, and they are getting more and more fun, and it's more and more of the Falcon, and that's what makes it great. The fact that you got the Blitz reunion going, that's a whole lot of fun, and that's unique in and of itself. But just twice a week of wall to wall Falcon, that's something that's been missed for a while. So I think it's going to take off quickly. I think it's really going to explode.
No, I appreciate you saying that. I'm just, it's funny. It was basically a lot of people on Facebook and Twitter telling me, start a podcast. Like, dude, I don't know if I can make a living at that. And, so far, okay, we're doing okay. And lots of interest almost every time that we have a show. I hear from people who want to advertise, and, some big, some small. And I need to get, if anybody knows anybody in those Lake Charles casinos, I mean, that's who I need.
Yeah.
I need some. I need to get one of those guys. I haven't been to the Horseshoe yet, but I've been to enough Caesars properties to. But I hear it's pretty nice. We're talking to some guys who were there yesterday. So yeah, I know if you guys have any contacts over there that you could send me, that would be great. I'd like to pick one. And most of these guys go through agencies, and it's a pain in the ass to deal with them. But I'd love to have them. So all right, let's get into a little sport, my friend. Well,
A little
first
bit
off,
of sports.
wait. How drunk are you though?
Nah, I'm sober as a judge right now. It's a little early for me yet. Hey, as soon as we're off the air, I'll tip a couple back.
It's 5:39 out there. That's like
Yeah, it's
yeah.
true, but I stay
Oh
sober
well.
to do this, man.
Well, so do I. It's part of my problem. That's why. But I did start right at 4 o'clock with this, and it's not close to being done. But anyway, yeah, let's talk a little baseball. I know there's a lot of things that we talked earlier today that we were getting into, but the uh, let's get to the trade deadline first, and then I want to talk about some MLB futures, World Series, things like that. Did I lose you?
I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I'm here.
Did I lose me?
You lost you. Yeah. So you're ready to talk a little trade deadline. I was wondering where you were going.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what are your thoughts? I mean, we talked Ohtani to death, but are the Mets sellers? What are the Mets doing? I mean, what do you think's going on there?
Mets are going to sell off all the one-year commitment guys, the Robertsons, those guys, because they're not part of the long-term plan, and they'll be replaceable pieces with guys of comparable or more money next year that are maybe a touch younger or a touch better, because they're so far out of it in the NL East. They ain't catching the Braves, and they're at the bottom of a huge scramble of teams in the NL wildcard chase, and they're probably just flat out not good enough to get to the top 3 in that heap. So sell off some of those rental pieces, fortify a farm system, get some pieces that may help you down the road, either as part of your roster or as pieces in a trade going forward when you need to add something at next year's deadline. But that's where I see them going. So I definitely see them selling. The Yankees are going to buy, but it's going to be that tempered buy. If everybody's looking for the big splash from the Yankees, they're not getting it, and I think that's the prudent move by the Yankees, because I'll be honest with you, I'm the Yankee fan in this room, and there's nothing they could buy that makes them better than Tampa Bay, makes them better than Houston, makes them better than Texas. Nothing. It doesn't make them better than the Orioles even. So for me, if you're going to buy, don't spend too much, add some pieces, get in the playoffs, and who knows what happens.
Yeah, just get in the playoffs, and that's the thing. You don't need to be better than those teams for an entire regular season. We see it all the time. All you need to do is be better for 5-game series, 7-game series, and you can get enough to help you do that. You just have to make the right moves. And but yeah, that's the it's people keep saying, oh, well, the Yankees will trade for Ohtani. It's like, are they really ready to spend that kind of money? Because they haven't been doing that. They spend up to a certain number, like the luxury tax line.
And I think they've forgotten one thing. Does Shohei Ohtani strike you as an East Coast guy?
No.
Bad
that's probably a little racist. Japanese guys don't want to go to the East Coast.
And to answer the guy on the feed, aren't the Yankees currently in last place in the AL East? Yes, they are.
Yeah. So
yes, they are. But they'll still buy because they're not out of it by any means, and so many teams coming in. And I think the realities for Shohei, if the Angels do trade him, I think he ends up getting traded to either Seattle or the Padres. And I know everybody said, well, the Padres wouldn't be buyers. They're going to be buyers and sellers at the same time.
Yeah.
They could trade for Shohei and trade Juan Soto at the same time. Not in the same place, but that's the type of thing they could do where they do the old buyer and seller deal. They trade Juan Soto to like the Phillies or something who need a middle of the lineup bat, and they trade for Shohei. San Diego would be perfect for him. Seattle obviously would be perfect for him. So those are two places I could see him going because he would be a good fit and he'd re-up there. He ain't coming to the Yankees. The Yankees ain't spending that kind of money because they have to pay him more than Judge, and then that opens up a whole other can of worms.
I think San Francisco might be a sneaky one in this one.
That's also a possibility.
Yeah. So, all right, let's look at some future bets. Let's get some wagers for the people.
All right.
What do you got on MLB?
I'll tell you, these are all on win the World Series. The first one, and everybody in Houston's going to like this one, Astros at plus 950. Did you ever think going into the season that you'd be getting this price? No. But you're getting this price. But you're probably getting this price for about 2 weeks because we all know they're going to make the moves they need to make to put themselves in a great position to win series in October. And that's the realities. Because get yourself in the best position to get the best path through October. But once they get there, and they are going to get there, if everybody's healthy, and when I say everybody, it's all the key pieces of the lineup. There are certain guys that aren't going to be healthy this year, but you add one more arm at the front of that rotation, and you look at what the Astros would be, all that postseason experience. They've won this before. A lockdown bullpen Has it been as good as last year's? Not necessarily. And there are some pieces that have been moved around a little, but it's a lockdown bullpen for a month. 3.5 horses at the top of the rotation. All those veterans that have been through this before. A guy in Jordan who can anchor a terrific lineup and a lineup that's very clutch, that doesn't leave ducks on the pond. And the Astros at plus 950 to me are a tremendous bargain to win the World Series.
Who else you like besides them?
Rangers. Again, same reason. I know the Rangers are going to make the moves they need to make. That ownership is committed to spending money and putting it all on the line now at the expense of later. They need to add another piece to that bullpen, an improving bullpen that's getting deeper, but it needs one more, high leverage piece to make everybody better. And don't be shocked, despite the fact that nobody mentions them looking for a starter, don't be shocked at them taking a stab at a starter, because as good as their rotation's been thus far in the regular season, do you really like that top 3 or top 3.5, top 4 of that rotation through the rigors of October into possibly November? I'm not sold on it. I could see them getting a piece. And as a true flyer, Fred, because it's a bargain price, but I don't think they have enough starting pitching, and I think they're too young, the Orioles at plus 2,800.
I don't mind that. You don't need to be better than everybody. And right now, they've been as good as anybody in the regular season. You just need to be better in a series. And, that's where you get hot at the right time. You get hot pitching. I mean, the Astros had hot pitching last year. Let's be honest. That bullpen gave up, 1 run the entire postseason?
Correct.
Yeah, so they got hot at the right time. So if you get the right guys that get hot at the right time, I don't want to say anybody can win it, because it's still, depth does start to matter when you get the back end of that rotation in a 7-game series. But you could certainly make a good run. All right, I'm going to tell people real quick about Lawyer Dave, and then I want to finish a conversation you and I were having this morning.
Awesome.
But Lawyer Dave, who is back in town, and if you need any legal advice, 713-626-8900 is your number. Dave and I went out Thursday, got caught up, and he got back in town on Monday, and so it took him a couple of days to adjust, because he was over in Amsterdam, and then he was off the coast of Spain, and he was doing this gigantic case. And the cool thing about Lawyer Dave is when he takes your case, you don't pay him a dime until you win. It's that simple. And personal injury is his big thing. If you're in an accident, and guys, this is Houston, you're always in accidents, right? Those insurance companies have lawyers. You need your lawyer. And Lawyer Dave is it. It's 713-626-8900. He's going to hopefully pop on the show with me and AJ on Thursday. And just give him a call. He'll take care of you. You don't pay a dime. He likes to gamble on himself. He likes to gamble on you. 713-626-8900. Need a lawyer. Better dial Dave. All right. Before we get to that, did you see that the Astros are interested in Cody Bellinger? And every news service is oh, how can he go there? He said all these bad things about Altuve. I think that's a little overrated. You go in there, you work things out, and you play ball together.
You don't have to like everybody you work with. And I definitely could see that happening at another bat. And I think they're going to be all over Marcus Stroman. It's a rental. It's not a long-term commitment. And that's the anchor to the top of that rotation. Now, you put Stroman to the top of that rotation, or in that mix at the top of the rotation with what else they would send out there for the postseason, and you don't have any starting pitching worries. You're going to trust the bullpen. And I think the bats, when most everybody's healthy, will speak for themselves, especially their ability to – the Astros don't leave in key spots. I'm not talking a Thursday or a Wednesday over the course of 162. I'm talking October baseball. The Astros don't squander opportunities. They don't leave ducks on the pond in big spots, and they find a way to scratch out runs without a ton of hits. They just have a way. It's what makes them. It's one of the things that makes them champions. That's the reality. So adding one more real frontline starter that pays dividends in October and also will help them with their positioning now, to me, makes a ton of sense for the Astros. So, I think both of those moves would make perfect sense for them.
All right, we were having a conversation today, just getting caught up mostly, but also we got into a topic that I think is pretty interesting, and how coaches. And we're talking about in football as much as basketball. It's like the best coaches don't come in with their system and make whatever personnel they have do that, right? I mean, some of them are very successful doing that, but a really good coach puts his players in. And I had a coach in high school tell me this, and it's always stuck with me. It's like, all I try to do is get you to playing your best, and then put you in the best position to succeed for us. So in other words, I'm not playing cornerback, right?
Right.
I mean,
Well, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. Generational I mean, as you mentioned, and I think you put it perfectly, there are a lot of great coaches out there that are systems coaches. Andy Reid, I mean, the list goes on. Kyle Shannon. These are guys you mentioned. They're systems coaches, but they are great coaches. And when surrounded with pieces that fit what they like, they win championships. That's the realities. The thing that makes guys like Bill Belichick and Bill Parcells generational coaches is that they can make those adjustments game to game, week to week, half to half, hour to hour, minute to minute. And they are not about their system. The Belichick defensive system is that there is no system. Same thing with the offense. Same thing with Parcells. He went from winning 2 Super Bowls with the Giants by grounding and pounding to getting the Patriots to the Super Bowl with Drew Bledsoe as their quarterback, throwing it 50 times a game. Those are generational coaches because they fit the scheme to the personnel they have. And basically, the scheme is we don't have a scheme. It could change at any moment.
But that's also a rarity. I mean, you're talking about a small group of guys, and I think the majority of really good coaches have their system, but they'll adjust it to their playmakers, right?
Yeah.
Like I think Sean Payton always did a good job of that in New Orleans. I mean, he's got a very specific system he uses, but he also moves pieces around, and he'll change up. I mean, when they got Alvin Kamara, suddenly they were much more of a running team. And in Ingram, they would rotate those guys and run for a bunch of yards. So, but I do think people tend to overthink it sometimes when it comes to coaching. It really is a simple thing. It's put your guys in the best position to succeed, and then they have to execute. That's on them. And
Absolutely.
as long as you do that, and I think people, and I think to me the 2 biggest indicators of that in football are third down play calling on offense and red zone defense. And the good coaches find a way to execute in those situations.
Yep.
And that's where play calling really comes in.
Stay off the field, stay on the field, keep your offense on the field, get your defense off the field. There's your formula.
Yeah. But even in basketball, we see it sometimes. And it's like, and again, there's a lot of great coaches out there. But a coach does make a difference. Now, college basketball, I think it's a lot bigger difference than it is the NBA.
Absolutely, no question.
I mean, and that may be the most impactful sport for a coach at the college or pro level. It might be college basketball because, a good coach is going to take. He may not. The ones who have the best players are going to be great, but you can take a guy who can take a bunch of, B-level players, and like I think Kelvin Sampson's done a good job of that for a long time. Now he's starting to get the 5 stars, but the reality is, you teach him the right way to play, you can improve a college basketball team in a hurry.
You absolutely can, and I think you really hit it on the head there. Of the major sports on the major college and professional level, in basketball, the head coach and the coaching staff can have the largest and most telling impact. And really, the program becomes about them in a way. Yes, you have football coaches on the college level where that happens to, and on the NFL level, but it's not the same in that it's just different. It's 5 players on the floor at a time as opposed to 11 or 9 in baseball. And it just seems to me that a coach can implement a foundation and just have results that keep on cranking out, cranking out, cranking out. You mentioned Kelvin Sampson with the Houston Cougars and pretty much every other stop he's ever been at on a college level before that. Another guy, he doesn't have a job right now, and you can question his choices, Bob Huggins.
Yeah.
Bob Huggins has never had the best talent. And particularly, even at Cincinnati, it was Bob Huggins. You know, he was that program. And at West Virginia, even more so. You know, he's not getting 5-star, 4-star. He's getting a lot of 3-star, 2-star grinded guys who fit what he likes and take on his personality on the basketball court. And it resulted in sustained success at West Virginia. So I think those are just a couple of examples of guys that do it better than just about anybody and really put that blueprint on the program, and year in and year out, they win big despite not having 5 stars and 4 stars.
Well, and then some guys are good coaches and they're just not a fit for a program. Like, for instance, you know, when Shaka was at Texas, they did okay, but he gets to Marquette and he wins like crazy. You know, it's interesting to me. You should be able to get better players at Texas than you do at Marquette. And it's no disrespect to Marquette. And
it looked like on paper he had them. It just didn't work. Much like their football program, no matter, up until Sark here, no matter who they've cycled through as the head coaches since the end of the Mac Brown era, they always got the horses, right? They were top 10, top 5 in recruiting classes every year, and they'd go 7-4.
Yeah, and look, a lot of times when guys go to big programs like that, we saw it when Kevin Sumlin got fired at A&M. He went to Arizona. He forgot how to coach. Yeah, and been able to coach a lick ever since.
That's true.
Even in the USFL. And I was glad to see Tom Herman get another job. But, I don't know that sometimes everything that goes on at a big school like Texas, it's just too much for some guys, because you're not just working for the athletic director there. At Texas, you're working for this whole big group of alumni who sit up there in that lunch place every day and eat fancy buffets and spend a lot of money on the program, and you have to be able to win them over, and it creates a lot of additional pressure. And I mean, Tom was always kind of a feisty guy, and that's the thing. I think for Texas, they needed someone with more of Sark's personality. Now, I still don't know if he's the guy there, but that's why Mac Brown was so good. Mac Brown would just turn on that charm and shake that hand and say, "Hey, we're here to win for the University of Texas, and we're all looking forward to it." So.
And it's going to be an interesting battle when they move over from the Big 12 to the SEC because of just the depth. I mean, obviously, them in Oklahoma moving over only add to that. But, I mean, their schedule is going to be a meat grinder every year in a way that maybe they weren't used to. And so that's going to, a whole nother set of challenges, and then the resulting pressure from the alumni if they can't leap over Alabama and LSU and Georgia on an annual basis, and they're not getting to the college football playoffs even after it expands. So it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds over the next few years.
Yeah, I'm interested. I think in retrospect, if I'm Texas and Oklahoma, I think my thing is big enough to throw it out there on the table and say, "Hey, I'll be the Big 12." It's exactly 12. They just throw it on the table. And I'm Texas and I'm Oklahoma. I don't need the SEC to be great. But by the same token, those are big brands. And, if that makes more money for them and for the conference, so be it.
But how much more money did Texas need? Texas generates more revenue than any other athletic program in the country by a wide margin. And because of the number of times they held up the rest of the members of the Big 12 to stay, they got all those concessions where even if the Big 12 contract was smaller, it didn't matter. They got more of the money, And then they got to have their own network, which they will have to disband when they go to the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, it's the old Wall Street thing, right? Greed is good. And
It is good until it bites you on the rear end, man. And that could happen. You were a big fish in a smaller pond. You're going to the biggest pond there is. How big a fish are you? And is the extra money, and how much extra money is it really worth the middling results and what they could do to you?
well, I would just say this. The reality to me is if you can win in the SEC and you're Texas, your brand's going to be even bigger. And
Well, that's a license to print money, isn't it? I mean, that's like a crime.
Yeah. So
I mean, that's crazy. If that could happen.
Yeah, they could buy half the country. Yeah.
I mean, literally.
Or
I
maybe
mean,
maybe just go buy Puerto Rico.
it's warm enough and nice enough. I mean, and there's plenty of beaches. What else do you really need? I mean, when you look at how it's changed and how the college sports landscape, and well, it's all pulled by college football, how it's changed in 20 odd years, where Texas is now far and away the biggest revenue generator. 20 odd years ago, it was Notre Dame that had all that leverage. That's how they got that contract of their own TV contract on NBC. They don't have that kind of leverage anymore. They still got that contract, but I saw an awful lot of those Notre Dame games when they were out of contention for anything on a down year get scuttled over to the old Peacock, the old streaming platform. So, Notre Dame is not what it used to be, and some of these traditional mighty powers just don't have the leverage that they used to because now everybody's on TV. So I want to go someplace where the girls wear short skirts and the weather's great, not someplace where Monsignor so-and-so says no girls in a room and it's 20 degrees in the winter.
Oh, I'm sure there'd be plenty of little boys allowed. Sorry. You had to. Let me check with the boss and see if that joke's okay.
Nah, you don't do that anymore. I make jokes like that. So the phone light up. I said, well, after the show, I'll be getting my last check. Oh, well, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Boss said it's okay, but it's just different. I mean, we've seen those traditional powers that weren't in places that are cool to hang out in 12 months a year have lost some of that luster on a year in Europe. Not all of them, but some of them. Notre Dame is a shell of what it used to be in many ways. They have their moments, but you look, when did you ever think the head coach of Notre Dame would leave for greener pastures called LSU? You never thought that would never happen. That shows you how the landscape has shifted in many ways all over the college sports landscape.
Yeah, and I also think they're going to find out the hard way that Brian Kelly was a hell of a coach. I know he's a weirdo, but now that he's going to be able to get the talent he gets at LSU, he did some things that no considering. Kids in the South and South. I mean, they're just not realistic.
Have you ever been to South Bend? Outside of the campus and Touchdown Jesus, there's no reason to be there. I mean, the city is the college, and well, come December, it's cold, it's frigid, there's rules, and you got to remember, Notre Dame doesn't make very many academic concessions for you to get your guys in. So all of a sudden, you've got these guys you want to get, well, you can't get them. They can't meet the stringent academic requirements that Notre Dame puts out there. Why do you think they always end up with great offensive linemen, 5-star offensive linemen? Offensive linemen typically the smartest guys on the team, right? Well, so you get your best offensive lineman will go to Notre Dame. Your best athletes that maybe can't meet the Notre Dame academic standard go everywhere else, and you can recruit them in the South, and it's nice and sunny all year, and the girls wear short skirts, and it's Christmas time, and there's a palm tree, and you got a short sleeve shirt on, and life is great. You're not bundled up in 3 jackets and shoveling a foot of snow off the dorm.
All right, that's Joe Spano. Joe, I really, really appreciate you taking the time. We'll do this again soon, and good stuff, my friend.
I look forward to it, Freddie. Anytime you need me, you know where to find me.
All right, brother. So I need to tell you about Lanham Industries. Southern Living Cleaning is the Lake Livingston area leader in providing quality service for your vacation home. consultation services to find the right home and location, decor and theme, price points. It's a one-stop shop for all vacation home service needs, and they do everything: cleaning, lawn care, laundry, maintenance, inventory management, and property management services available. And you guys, I know I love me some Lake Livingston, and as soon as I can get some things straightened out, I'm definitely gonna get a place up there, and I'm definitely gonna use them because they do everything. Consistent 5-star rating from guests and owners, veteran owned and operated, which is always going to be a big deal on this podcast. And give them a call. Here are your numbers: 936-581-6166 or 346-773-9577, or go online to lanhamindustries.com/GoDaddy, and you can check out all the great services they have, and hopefully at some point I'll be your neighbor up there. All right, time for the final thoughts. I mentioned this story earlier, and it's I don't know how to feel about this, so I want to get your takes on this. A guy named Claudio Spilatro, who's 63 years old, 38-year age gap with his 25-year-old wife, Simi Ataja. Now, I kind of think a guy named Claudio Spilatro could probably pull whatever he wants, right? You got a name like that. Listen, that's one of my many problems. My name's Fred. It's like, hi, I'm Fred. If I went and said, hey, I'm Claudio Spilatro. And yeah, maybe you get something. But 63, met his partner on a dating app when she was just 18 years old. He kept trying to find an active woman, which I think we know what that means, after divorcing his wife of 18 years. He was bumped into on some app called Seeking to connect affluent single people. Yeah, so I'm not on that app either. That's probably it, right? It's just that he's rich. It's like, yep, Claudio Spilatro. So, yeah, I was going to spin that off, but it was fun having Greg here because I really don't know when I was his age, what age group I was looking at, right? I think I was already married by then. So, okay. And then this is going to be our final story of the day. We talked a lot about tipping and when it's appropriate to tip, right? This story, and I want to save a longer discussion for this for another day with you guys, because I think they're getting to places now where I look and there's like a tip jar and I'm like, what? I think this is as far as it should have ever gone. A customer was at a self-checkout machine, and the machine requested a 20% tip. And then when she scanned her item, it was a 15, 18, or 20% tip. Now, I tip well, right? I always have. I mean, I usually start right at 25% and either up from there or no lower than 20. And I'll tip at a lot of places that, like I still love that Mr. Pink rant where he's talking about, why do you not tip somebody at McDonald's, but you're tipping this person? Well, I'm damn sure not tipping a self-checkout machine. Are we crazy with this stuff? It's gone too far. And I mean, who would even plug that in there? And I mean, it's a self-checkout. You're doing the work. You should be tipping yourself. They should give you 20% off. Anyway, that's our final thoughts for today. We'll be back on Thursday with AJ Hoffman this time. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in today. Great group in the chat, as always. And I want to thank Greg and Joe for joining us, and looking forward to getting back with AJ on Thursday unless he has another disaster. I'm glad we got some of the issues worked out with Twitch, and now it's on YouTube and streams on Twitter and Facebook and all these places. And, I'm about to post it here in a few minutes, and it'll go on Spotify, Apple, and a few other people. So, all right. Thanks a lot, guys. And until Thursday, stay sportsy Gulf Coast badasses.